going from 7 grand to 200 grand, had never seen money like that. So to lose, $160,000 was beyond depressing. And Bill, this is embarrassing. I had a degree in economics and an advanced degree called an MBA. I was an accountant out of school. And here I am at 30 years old being enlightened by a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I got to tell you, at that moment, looking at that house, I was ready to give up again.
Most people thought that I was going to say you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a business owner. In order to grow wealth and find financial freedom, you have to be this 1% entrepreneur business owner. Instead, we talked about options. Like you can be a W-2 employee and become really wealthy. If you're listening and you're a W-2 employee and you love your job and you also are excited and interested in real estate, you can do both.
I've been lucky enough to speak to high school classes. And one of the question I ask them is, how many of you can live on $2,500 a month? Now they have no context to Bill, so they all raise their hand. The point of asking them that question is, if that's true, you could be financially free by the time you're 25.
I know I'm not in the airplane today, but I want you to stick around and watch this. This show that I just recorded with another YouTuber was so powerful that I want to put it on my YouTube channel. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We talk about financial freedom, how you can make money in real estate, 3 steps to becoming wealthy in anything that you invest in and how to invest. Absolutely incredible show. I hope you enjoy it. I'm actually really excited today. I have been doing podcasts all week. And if you don't know, I really only like to do about 1 a day, unless I'm on somebody else's show. If I'm on somebody else's show, I have no problem. But if I have to run the conversation 1 a day, but I've been doing like 3 or 4 a day to get caught up, especially to go through January. And so normally I'm like I'm not really like looking forward to a call sometimes, but I'm really looking forward to this one because I love my guest today. Michael Zuber is actually absolutely incredible guy. I remember the first time that I ever came across him was years ago on Facebook. And it was someone who was talking about, can you come on my YouTube channel? Like all the people that I was friends with on Facebook, all I saw was this guy named Michael Zuber who was like, would you come on my YouTube channel? I need to get you on my YouTube channel. And that was like all I ever saw him talking about was his YouTube channel. And the reason I say that is because most of you are not willing to put in the work and the time to build something long enough for it to be successful. To stink at it or not be good at it is not the term here. It's actually to practice your craft, get really good at it. And and so I watched him do this in the background and was just kind of watching. I don't even know if we really talk or spoke, but maybe somebody recommended me or something. And then he was like, I need to get you need to come on my YouTube channel. I was like, all right, I've never been on a YouTube channel before. Don't have a YouTube channel. I didn't know anything about YouTube really. I don't watch it. I don't subscribe to it at that time. This is 5-6 years ago. Right. And so,
2018, I remember.
So since then he has built a big, huge YouTube channel and sees a lot of success from it because he was willing to put in the work. And I know Michael's here, but you guys don't even know. He's probably are you kidding me? Recording 3 podcasts in a day. I do that in an hour for 4 hours straight every single day. So we'll talk about that today. We'll talk about his talk at Flip Hacking Live, had the opportunity to have him, but I want to introduce you to what I believe to be a good friend of mine, even though we spend most of the time virtually together, online, those kind of things, and have been in the same room a few times. But I would fly out. I would do whatever he asked me to do. And I know we've built a really good relationship, which I love. And in this industry, it's sometimes a challenge to find people that you really connect with, that have great values, that you share with them. And so I'm really excited to have Michael Zuber on the show today. What's up, Michael? How are you?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I remember the communication back in 2018. The channel just started and I was looking for folks who had a story. And obviously you had a story in 2018. The stories only got on to be bigger and better from then. But the one thing that's really interesting when you start to have even just a little success on YouTube is you get a lot of people suddenly reaching out to you to be on your show. And I'm very picky. I'm very picky on who gets on and certainly who gets on more than once, which you've been on multiple times, because I believe in you. I believe what you're doing. And on my channel, I often introduce you as the following. I believe Bill Allen is on the Mount Rushmore of real estate investors. So he's the top 3, 4, 5 folks in my entire universe of 20 some odd years of investing, going to events. Bill Allen is that good of an investor, and he's a better human being. So when Bill asks for something, the answer is yes.
Well, I love that. Thank you very much. And But this is my show, so you have to talk about yourself. So if you can tell everybody a little bit about your background. You talk about 20 plus years of investing. Some people might not know your history, your background, and like how much
Sure.
you've done, even going back to your time in corporate America. Like your story is really powerful. And I think, and even your message of like, buying rental properties and the fact that you can become wealthy, become free, over time just by doing a small amount of real estate, which is somewhat different than what a lot of people think that we do. Is like, hey, get to $1 million a year really fast and burn yourself out doing it. But I think there's like a real good balance in there. So maybe give everybody the background of who you are and like your story.
Yeah. So if I were to give kind of a 2 or 3 minute back bio on me, I am a W-2 employee. I'm not an entrepreneur. That's how I look at myself. I'm a great, I retired in 18. I was a great employee. I was an okay investor. I don't see myself as an entrepreneur. My story began with real estate when I was 30. I had turned $7,000 into $200,000 in the stock market during what's called the .com era. I thought I couldn't do any wrong, and it all went away. $200,000 really went to $40,000 in about a 2 or 3 week period. So it vanished. And that was hard for me. I grew up with very little, housing insecure. I got a job at 13 to put food in the fridge. So money's a trigger for me. So first, going from $7,000 to $200,000, my family had never seen money like that. So to lose, $160,000 was beyond depressing. And I remember walking through a bookstore, Borders. There was actually a physical bookstore pre-Amazon, and finding what to me was a life-changing book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I call it the Purple Book. It introduced concepts to me that I didn't know exist. It was like the world opened. And Bill, this is embarrassing. I had a degree in economics and an advanced degree called an MBA. I was an accountant out of school. And here I am at 30 years old being enlightened by a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Unfortunately, Rich Dad, Poor Dad changes your mindset, but doesn't tell you how. It's not a how-to book. So I spend the next year consuming every real estate book on the planet. All of them told me, Bill, to invest in your backyard. I happen to live in the Silicon Valley. I happen to want cash flow. I spent a year, 52 Sundays. That was the day I did. Every Sunday for 52 weeks, we tried to find cash flow in the Bay Area. It didn't work. Again, I'm feeling depressed. Olivia, my wife, goes, this isn't working. We have to try something else. For us, out-of-state investing wasn't a thing. It wasn't an option. I hate to fly, right? I'm a nervous flyer. I feel every bump. And, oh, by the way, I've done 1 million miles. So tie that together. It's crazy. So we had to get in a car. We started drawing circles around where we live. And we found Fresno, California, which is 2.5 hours one way from where we live. But the numbers made sense. And in about 3 months or so, we buy our first property on Norris Drive. We feel like heroes. And unfortunately, if you've read my book, One Rental at a Time, you know that first tenant never paid rent. They got divorced. The wife left, took the kids. The husband became a drunk. Took 3 months to get him out, $1,000 eviction, and then a $15,000 repair bill because he decided to destroy our house. I got to tell you, at that moment, looking at that house, I was ready to give up again. And Olivia said, did we do anything wrong? She is so smart, so in tune. And we didn't. We credit checked, we reference checked, income, there's no box on the application, are you going to get divorced? And she was right. We tried it again, and I'm so glad we did. That house produced cash flow for the next 3 years. We 1031 out of that house into an apartment building that we still own today. Lo and behold, that one decision, we went from one house to, hundreds of units and, retired in 2018. So all our stuff, no partners, no syndications, no JVs, all our stuff, 1031 exchanges, private or cash out refis. We borrowed a bunch of private money as debt in the crash. And I never left one market. We've been in one market for 20 years, have several teams. And it can work. It takes time. I think most people, to your point, should focus on getting 1 or 4 rental properties. I think 4 rental properties changes your life. I think the social media craze about thousands and hundreds is misguided. And I say that with experience. So I retire February 2nd, 2018. I'm invited to speak at a San Jose real estate meetup that has 100 people there. I'm the keynote speaker. I tell our story. I'm excited, right? I'm 2 months out of a W-2 job. So I'm raving about the portfolio and gross rents and net rents, and I'm excited. I think I kill it. I get a standing ovation, blah, blah, blah. I go to the car. I go to get in my car when I'm done, and I can still remember the empty feeling, Bill, of a couple saying, good for them, we can't do it. Because I was talking about numbers that people can't comprehend. I built 200 units over 20 years, not day one. So from that day forward, Bill, I have talked about getting to 4. 4 changes your life. 1 a year for 4 years. 1 every other year for 8 years. A full-time employee that takes the time to get 4 cash flow properties and pays them off over the next 30 years will have an amazing retirement. That was my goal. When I was at Borders at 30 years old, depressed from losing all that money, I just wanted 4 houses paid off when I was 65 so I could have options. And then by doing the work and being focused, more happened. But that's where I'll stop and let you ask some questions.
Well, I think that's great. So I just yesterday I talked to, there's probably about 150 families that with kids. So we did an event for kids about financial education and like wealth creation and things like that. And we're launching a kids program now called Teenage Tycoon. I'm writing a book right now called Teenage Tycoon. And so there were about 70 families in person. And there was at least 100 online. There might have been 150. It was over 200 people online, and most of them were single computers with a whole family sitting around the computer watching it on the TV or something like that. And most people thought that I was going to say, you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a business owner. In order to grow wealth and find financial freedom, you have to be this 1% entrepreneur, business owner, and take, what seems to most people to be high risk, which I don't believe is, but and not be a W-2 employee. And what I did was instead we talked about options. Like you can be a W-2 employee and become really wealthy, really financially free if you can figure out how to solve a big enough problem inside of somebody else's business. But it takes active income to turn around and turn it into passive income. And so the thing that I focused on was figure out for them as young people. I mean, we had kids ages 6 and 7 up to 18, 19 there. Wow. And it was about finding their like active income stream and figuring out how to grow that so that they can buy passive income and figure out what to do. And so, and then there's a skill set that comes along with it. They can figure out what they're passionate about and what they're best in the world at and what's their unique ability and all these things. But what I had my videographer come up and talk to them because he's 24 years old and he was on the call before, Morgan, 24 years old, deathly afraid to talk to a group. He wants to be behind the camera, not in front of it. But when I heard his story, he just was so enthusiastic about YouTube when he was young. He would make these videos. He'd take his mom's VHS tape recorder when he was really young and was making videos at 6 years old. And then, at 8 and 9 and 10, bought his first DSLR camera at 11. And then he just kept making videos for no pay and just like learning and getting excited about it and finding his passion there. And then I asked him, I said, when is the first time that you ever got paid to make videos? And he's like, the day that you hired me like a couple years ago. And I was like, what? I didn't know that. And so he said, look, I'm never going to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I'm not a visionary. But what I love to do is I like taking other people's vision and bringing them to light. And like you have that and you figure that out early, you can bolt it on and you can figure out how to make as much money as you want and do the things that really fill you up. So I'm totally on board with your story. Like for the people that are listening, a lot of what people come on here and talk about is how fast can I leave my W-2 job? And the only time that I'm going to tell you to do that is if you hate it. If you absolutely hate it. Like I loved flying airplanes for the Navy. I built a multi-million-dollar real estate business while I was flying airplanes for the Navy full time. At no point while I was doing that did I plan on leaving the Navy. I wasn't doing that so I could get out of my job. I said, I will stay in the military as long as I'm flying airplanes and having fun. And when they gave me a desk, I left. And so, it wasn't fun anymore. And honestly, I was having more fun in real estate building businesses too than I was having in the military. And also, I was thinking about that way more than flying while I was flying. And I said, this is dangerous. Like, this is actually dangerous, because I would rather be figuring out my business and flipping houses, doing that stuff, than studying the emergency procedures and the manuals and things like that. And it's getting to the point where I'm obsessing over this real estate game instead of my flying career. So anyway, all that to say, long story of, if you're listening and you're a W-2 employee and you love your job and you also are excited and interested in real estate, you can do both. You can absolutely.
Absolutely. I've come to believe that getting wealthy is a very simple 3-step process, whether you're an entrepreneur or a W-2 employee. One, you have to create disposable income. There's only 3 ways to do that. Increase your active income, lower your expenses, or do both. Number 2, you have to become an elite investor at something. You and I chose real estate. You flip, I buy and hold. You could do stocks, whatever it is. Become unbalanced. This idea of diversification when you're building is hogwash. Become unbalanced on your thing. And then here you go, folks. The magic sauce in number 3 is it takes a decade. This is not a get rich quick. This is not get rich tomorrow. This is get rich for sure. It's that simple. And I've been lucky enough to speak to high school classes. And one of the question I ask them is, how many of you can live on $2,500 a month? Now, they have no context to bill, so they all raise their hand. The point of asking them that question is, I say, if that's true, you could be financially free by the time you're 25. Whether it's doing a side hustle, whether it's, again, go right back to step 1, get disposable income. For some people, that means getting crazy restrictive on expenses. Others are, I'm going to go increase my income. Why not do both? That's the only reason Olivia and I kept growing, is we went from spending 100% of our income to spending 50%. And our income went up, and we still did that ratio. And the thing that I think is really funny about this is, I've now come to realize, Bill, that for the 10 or 15 years we sacrificed, our friends were talking behind our back and making fun of us. We didn't upgrade our house. We didn't change zip codes. We didn't get new cars. We didn't take crazy vacations. We just sacrificed and bought assets. And then time took care of itself. And, now we took January off and we're in Asia, and we just did 3 weeks in Europe, and we just bought a crazy ass house in Vegas. And it can happen, but you need 10 years. And for us, it's been 23. So it works. It's a pretty simple process. It's just most people won't commit to 10 years.
Yeah. And that sacrifice over that long term is, so when I think back, there's another tip that I gave them that I'll share here, exactly what you just said. And what I did was, for me, I was single when I was, for a long time while I was flying in the military. So same thing. I said, instead of you kept the ratio the same as you got a raise. What I did, I made it a game. What I said was, okay, I'm living off of this right now. Like when I was an ensign in 01, I would live off of, I'd live probably below my means. Like I wouldn't do a lot of things or go out or spend a bunch of money. And I was really kind of thrifty. People call me cheap. And I would like to use the word frugal, probably, or smart, or fiscally advanced. Let's use that word. So I had this level of spending. And then what happened was I got a raise to Lieutenant JG, so the next level up. And so my pay increase might be like 10%, but my expenses stayed fixed, like fixed dollar amount. And then I became a lieutenant, and my pay went up again. And even every year my pay would go up. And then we moved to San Diego. I moved to San Diego, and then the housing pay that I got went up, and everything went up. Like all of the cost of living things that we got that were tax-free went up. And as it went up, my percentage started going way up. Like my actual saving percent went up. and I don't like the word saving. Like I don't have a saving percent. I have an investing percent. Like I don't save it, I invest it, and I want it to compound. So when I was like, saving like 30% of my salary, then it was like 40, then it was 50, then it was like 65, 70. And so as I got like higher, I was lieutenant commander, basically living off of a brand new ensign's salary. And so all of it went in for a long period of time, like you said. And it wasn't until I got married and very quickly we had our first son that those things started getting more expensive. I had to take care of my wife. She didn't work, and then take care of my son. And so those things, but that's when I really ramped up my investing game, because I realized that I like this slow and steady in the stock market is just not going to work for me. And I was becoming an expert, like you said, an elite investor, but I couldn't control any of that. It was really there was no skill that I could bring to the table. I didn't feel like, unless I became a day trader, which I didn't want to do. And it was just too risky for me. I didn't like the concept. And so I found real estate. I became started to learn and study and learn it all behind the scenes. And then for years, it was like that, just being like totally broke. Like all of my money went into investing. Every dollar that I put in that account, I wanted to turn into 2 or 5 or 10. And then it started stacking and stacking and stacking. And so now when people are like, you don't live below your means. Like I just bought a car the other day, and it's a nice car and it was kind of expensive. And so now it's like, you know what? That is actually disposable now. Like I figured out a way to pay for that. I have a very expensive airplane, but I'm constantly looking for ways for that to save me money, make me money, build something around it. Like we're doing the YouTube channel in there, like all this stuff, like how can anyway, the disposable income side for me, what I taught them, and there's a chapter that I'm writing in this book for these kids, is what if you can live off 10%? Like what if you live off 10 and save 90 or invest 90 forever? Like until you get older, when you actually have problems,
so awesome.
Like you actually have things, and then you house hack when you're 18, 19. And so you don't even have to, like people are like, oh yeah, but then I'll have housing. No, you won't. You don't even have to have housing. Get an FHA loan, and a $400,000 house is $14,000, $15,000 down, or 20 grand with some closing costs. And now, like that's cheaper than a car. So it was really cool to see that.
I'm so glad you're putting house hacking. Yeah, house hack. I don't have very many financial regrets, but I got to tell you, the fact that I didn't house hack a fourplex at 20 or whenever I could is it's a huge. My life would have been fundamentally different. So I'm glad that's there. I think this teenage tycoon is awesome. Just planting the seed.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, right? I had a job since I was 13. I didn't know the whole idea of savings. I made money, spent money. I mean, in my family, money was a stressor, right? When we had money, dad was happy. When we didn't have money, dad wasn't happy. So, it's money for me was a happiness scale. And
isn't that step one? Don't you agree that's step one? Like the money mindset is like the first piece that we talked about yesterday. Like that's step one.
Absolutely. The fact that you're potentially planting this in a teenager is amazing. It's just like, as a teenager, if somebody would have taken the time to do that with me, because I was always money oriented, but for me, money was currency to be spent. If somebody would have taken the time to plant the seed about how you could compound it or grow it, I would have eaten that up, and I would have been like, holy cow, if I live on 10 or 20%, like I'm not saying I can't spend, but let's just spend the 20% however I want, put the other 80% away and, let it compound. Dude, I would have been, it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I honestly, I feel like if you're listening to this and you're 30, 40, 50 years old, and you don't know this stuff, now's the time. The next 10 years are going to happen no matter what. So, act like it. Totally. It sounds like you have a dog biting your ankle.
Yeah. This little guy right here is cranky for some reason.
Oh man, what kind of dog is that? Shih Tzu?
This is a Shih Tzu. Yeah, purebred Shih Tzu.
Oh, nice.
A little mini one.
We have a.
Sorry about that.
We have a Havanese, and a lot of people think it is a Shih Tzu.
Yeah,
so
they look a little close.
One thing that you said is kind of like exactly what we're talking about right now. You said become an elite investor at something, and when you said that, it hits me with, what's important to pull out of that is that nobody is going to take care of your money the way that you do. So if there's one thing that I think that every single person needs to learn, it's just some fiscal responsibility for yourself. It's to understand a little bit about taxes, understand a little
Yep.
bit about money, compound interest, where you would put your money, different ways to get returns, and not letting somebody else pull the strings there, and not
Amen.
take a hard look at it and hold those people accountable and be involved. Like, there's one thing where I feel like everybody should learn, it's there. Like, you don't need to be the best salesperson. You don't need the best marketing person. You don't need the best operator inside your business. If there's one thing that I feel like can ruin you in business and in life, it's not taking enough ownership for your personal finances.
No, at the end of the day, you own your decisions. There's not enough of extreme ownership. There was obviously that book written by Jocko Willink, which thank you for the opportunity to get that autograph.
Yeah.
That was awesome at Flip Hacking Live. But extreme ownership is something that's lacking a lot of out there. There's a lot of blame. There's a lot of theys and thems and all of that. They did it to me. It doesn't help, folks. It doesn't. You spent that. You didn't do that. You did this or not that. Look yourself in the mirror, have an adult conversation with yourself, and make different choices going forward. It doesn't help to look backwards. Doesn't hurt, doesn't help to dwell on the fact I lost all that money in the stock market. It's like, okay, I got to own this. I have to make, I got to get better. Stocks aren't my thing. It's a casino. I don't understand the rules, all of that. So I got to find something else. Real estate's more tangible. But yeah, we got to own our decisions, man. There's not enough of that today.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's a culture right now and an environment of everybody wants you to be financially dumb. Like, it benefits Wall Street for you to be stupid on stocks and expense ratios and prospectuses, and they make it 150 pages so you don't read any of it. And there's hidden expense ratios that could cost you 4 to 5%, and over time, then there's a money manager and wealth manager that's taking 1 or 2% of that as well. So now, your return is basically being wiped out, and so then additionally, you got banks that don't want you to be smart about finances because they're charging you 25% on a credit card or a 150-page document to sign a mortgage that you're never going to read and don't understand. So you just sign it. And then, so it's just, it really, they're all making money off of us. And so it doesn't make sense for them to teach us. And it's beneficial to them for them to make it confusing. It actually is really simple. Like, when it comes, money can be really simple and really beneficial. It's just a tool. And I think your mindset around it is one of the most important pieces. So you spoke at Flip Hacking Live and you talked about specifically about building a Buybox. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I think what I got from your presentation was transformational for me, and I could see it in the room for a lot of people, just understanding the importance of that and how many people overlook it and just jump right in, like you said, in their backyard or somewhere else, that without thinking it through and really building a system. And I think you structured it really well, where this is my system and this is the plan, and you can duplicate it too.
Yeah, I think the Buybox is everything for a new real estate investor. So I'll do my best to kind of outline it here. So the Buybox is really two things. It's permission to focus and permission to ignore. Most new investors don't understand the ignore. They say things like, I'm going to look at that and this. So let's talk about my Buybox from 2001. I think it's the best example. So in 2001, I'm living in the Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, San Francisco, for those that don't know, area. And I chose to invest in a city called Fresno, California. It's 2.5 hours away. I never lived there. I knew no one, and I never visited. It's 1 million people. So it's a relatively big market. I chose it because the numbers made sense. But in 2002, we didn't have all this technologies and Zillow and PropStream and all this other stuff. You had the MLS. Realtor.com, I think, is what I used, or something like that. And if I would have just looked at Fresno, California and did a blind search, I would have been gambling at best and probably gone nowhere because I couldn't learn it. So what did I do in 2001? First, I talked to 20 people that invest in Fresno. And I asked them, if you had to start over, where would you invest? And I got 40 different answers. But one area came up more often than others. It was a zip code called 93703. They refer to it as the Mayfair District. I don't know any better, but I'm like, hey, 17 of the 40 people said this. I'm going there. step one. Mayfair's still relatively big. It's probably got, back in the day, 300-400 listings, all different types, houses, duplex, apartments, trailers, all these things. Too much. So I chose single family homes. Why? Because that's all I ever lived in. That was the extent of my research. I never lived in a duplex, so I didn't look. Single family homes. Then I said 3 or 4 bedrooms. Then I said 2 baths. Then I said 2-car garage, 1 story. And finally, I said between 1,250 to 2,000 square feet. Why did I add all those variables? The reason is simple. I wanted to get to an active list of somewhere between 20 and 40 listings. What I found, if you had more than 40, I couldn't go through it quickly. And if I had less than 20, it wouldn't change enough. So I played with the criteria to get an active listing of something like 31 or 32 listings. This is 2001, 2002. But here's what I mean by discipline. I saved that search, and that is all I looked at for 3 years. 3 years. The rest of Fresno might as well not have existed. If it wasn't in 93703, it wasn't 3 or 4 bedrooms, it wasn't 2 baths, it wasn't 2-car garage, it wasn't the right square footage, I didn't see it. That is where people go wrong. New investors go wrong, in my opinion, at the very beginning because they're flooding their minds with too much stuff. You can't compare Fresno with Dallas, with Huntsville, Alabama. You can't compare in the beginning a house with an apartment versus a mobile home. They're different. They have different costs, different expense, different lending. Just everything's different. So in the beginning, I believe you need a buy box, a tight focus. But then here's the magic. And here's where I really closed with Flip Hacking Live. Your goal with a buy box is one thing that you probably don't understand. The one thing you're trying to do with a buy box is understand what the average return is. If you do this for 90 days, you will be able to at some point say the average return on this is 6%. I call it yield. You can call it cash on cash, call it whatever you want. And then, and only then, can you can start shopping for property, because I don't want anybody that follows my strategy to buy an average deal. Anybody can buy an average deal. I want you to buy good or great deals. Okay, what does that mean? In my world, if average is 6, you should buy a 7.5, which is good, or a 9, which is great. So again, it's hard. It takes discipline, but it is possible if you're consistent and focused. So again, I believe the buy box creates focus and discipline. The goal of it is to learn average. And then from then on out, we only buy good or great deals. That's kind of my focus.
We're so similar in the strategy. I think the reason why we get along so well is because it's like fundamental principles that we're going through that are the exact same. Not just the ethical side of it, but actually like then going to strategy. Because even though like I teach the same thing to wholesalers and flippers. If you're a wholesaler and flipper just getting started, like I tell you, go into ListSource, and I want you to pull all of the transactions that were done in the last few months, and look at your area and then sort it by the most transactions in the type of property that you're looking for, and look by zip code. And so now you can get a list of the zip codes. And if you're a wholesaler, these are transactions that were bought. You use non-owner occupied properties that were purchased in the last 6 months. And these are what your buyer's buying and how many in what areas. And now you can sort it and you can have the top couple zip codes. So now you say, okay, what is this zip code? Oh, this zip code is like a knife area where it's all rental properties. This is a zip code where it's like really nice properties. Like you can figure it out of what everyone is. So it's like flippers are buying here, landlords are buying here, slumlords are buying here. Like, and then you can determine what kind of customer you want to create. And then you just go in there and there's, in the last 6 months, if it's a high transactional area, you just got to get one. You just got to get one deal. Exactly what you're saying. You just get one rental property. I'm like, just get one deal. And the problem is they're focusing on the whole city. And they're throwing a net that has such big holes that everything's slipping through it. And so same thing as a flipper. You go in as a flipper. Flippers this is what they think. Oh, that zip code over there has so many flippers that are flipping houses in it. It's saturated. I'm going to go over here where nobody's flipping houses. There's nobody's flipping houses over there because there's no money over there to make. And so
Exactly.
just you go over there and those guys are doing 10. This guy's doing 5. This guy's doing 3. You just need to do 1. Just go get 1 and go to the zip code. They're over there because everybody wants to buy over there. And your customer is the buyer, not the seller. Like, so go over there and figure out how to find just 1 deal. And then I'm like, just go talk to the gun shops and the pawn shops and everybody. Go talk to the lady in the neighborhood who knows everything that's going on in the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you get your first deal. And then once you get your first deal, the second one's easy. The third one's easier. The fourth one's easier. And so I love this. Like, and then if you're a flipper and you're talking to a wholesaler, or you're a landlord, you're talking to a wholesaler, you say, I'm buying in the Mayfair district, 1,200 to 2,000 square feet, 3 or 4 bedroom only, 2 bath, 1 story, single family. That's it. When you have that, call me. And they're like, oh, Michael's the Mayfair guy. So anytime I get a Mayfair deal, I send it to Michael because he's going to buy it.
Exactly.
If it's a good deal, he buys it. And then the realtors know that's where you're looking. This is what you're looking for. Oh, it doesn't fit. Yeah. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, I could build this so fast right now, knowing what I know. And so now the challenge is, it's all the people who are like, they're stuck on starting. Like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who hears this and they're like, okay, this all makes sense. Bill and Michael, it makes sense. You guys have been doing this for a long time. It's easy for you to make an offer now. Like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is kind of stuck in that like learning phase to kind of get out there and do something? Like, what would be your best advice for that?
So what I find with new investors that are stuck there is they have the wrong winning strategy. So what does that mean? A lot of them that I talk to think winning is buying the first deal. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think there are many micro steps that I want people to celebrate out loud. What might those be? Well, you know what? If you get a Buybox like I talked about and you look at it and document changes 90 days in a row, I want you to celebrate that, because I've been telling people to do this for 5 years and less than 10% of the people I talk to do it 90 days in a row. So celebrate that. The next thing I want you to celebrate is if you can articulate to your significant other or one of your best friends what your Buybox is and what an average deal is, because most people have no idea. If you could say an average deal in, blah, 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 Buybox is 6% yield, you know more than 99.9% of the people out there, including agents and investors and flippers. The next thing I want you to celebrate, in this one, I want you to pop champagne or Coke or whatever the thing is for you. When you write your first great offer, I want you to celebrate that. And again, your great offer, especially in a market like we're in today, the seller may say, no, thank you. They may tell you to F off. They maybe not even counter. Who cares? I want you to celebrate getting to the point of writing a great offer that you feel great about. The seller saying yes is inconsequential. You have done the work, you put in the time, and you wrote the offer. Too many new investors beat themselves up because, Bill or Mike, you don't get it. I've been doing it for 6 months and I haven't bought anything. Well, have you written an offer? No, I haven't. Well, there's the problem. And again, if you have to write an offer today that I would think is disrespectful, call it 30% below, write the offer anyway. If your numbers say this is only a great deal if, write the offer. Yes, the seller will probably not respond. Who cares? Write the offer. That first win is amazing. And trust me, after writing the first offer, the second one's a lot easier, and the third one. In the end, a lot of people that I see stuck have the wrong celebration. They want to celebrate closing a deal, and that's inconsequential to me. There's so many steps you should celebrate before that.
I 100% agree with that also. Tony Robbins has these 4 boxes. I don't know if you've ever seen him do this presentation, but it's potential, then action, then results, then belief. And it's a cycle of these 4 things.
I haven't seen
so he talks about how like everybody has this like unlimited potential. Like if you ask people like, what do you think your potential is? They're like, oh, it's much higher than what I'm achieving. So they believe that they have this high potential. And then they go out there and take action. And then they have some result that they're expecting or wanting or desiring. And then that result flows into belief. So like you believe that you can or cannot do it, and then that will then adjust your potential. So it's like almost like a flywheel that gets going.
Sure.
And so exactly what you said, inside of those 4 boxes, the problem that I see is what you talked about, where they think the result is getting their first deal.
Exactly.
And if that's it, then they're going to take this action. They're not going to get the result that they want in the speed at which they think that they can get it in. And then their belief goes down. And then when their belief goes down, they feel like their potential is lower than what they start second guessing that. And then their action goes down. And if their action goes down, they never achieve the result. And then they're just like, okay, I quit.
It doesn't work.
Yep.
Bullshit. It does work.
But if you input a different result in that box, and so like what I always talk about is like just exactly what you just said. What if you just wanted to talk to a seller?
Yeah,
like that's
celebrate that.
I always want, my result is to talk to a seller. You take action, you talk to a seller, your belief goes up, not down. And then, so it's like like you said, the micro wins need to be put in that result box. So it's a very good visual to use when it comes to this, is those 4 boxes that I love. And and the other thing is, I just did a show with a sales person, Lindsay. She gave a presentation on sales at the event, and she talked about detaching from the result. Mm-hmm. So it's so important in a sales conversation to detach from the result and really start caring. So when you were saying that, it's like, I just talked to her right before this call. That's playing in my head of the fact that we're so attached to the result that when we don't get it, we drop belief and drop potential, and everything just starts snowballing in a reverse. It goes around the wrong way.
Yeah.
And we end up taking less action.
Yeah. So I was a sales guy. That was my day job for the last 15 years. And the last 5 or so years is I took products that didn't exist and turned them into $100 million. I did that 3 times over the last 5 years. And she's absolutely right. What you basically have to do is you have to create what most salespeople call a pipeline. You can call it other things, but there are steps that you go through, and then you're just playing with the knobs. And if you put enough stuff in and you're worried and you get the conversions right, the result happens. It's a mathematical equation with small variances. Too many people, she's right, only focus on the end. And thus they don't do all of these things. So Tony Robbins, your sales professor, absolutely right. We got to, if I was talking to new investors, is change the little wins. Like you said, you want to be a wholesaler? Well, you know what? You got to talk to sellers. No, you don't even talk to sellers. I would argue that's not what you do. You talk to owners. They may become sellers, because again, a lot of wholesalers go in thinking they're talking to a seller. They're probably an owner. They may be a seller someday in the future. Why don't you build a relationship with them so that you can check in once a year or whatever? So again, I would say it's calling owners, but celebrate that. We have to create wins so we get more self-belief, so that we can go back and pick up the phone again and do it again, whatever it is. It's awesomely done. Nice job.
I love that. Yeah, I want to kind of close it out with this question. Sure. And I want to talk about the consistency in your YouTube channel specifically.
Sure.
Because the amount of time, like what the system that you built, the time that you put in, I think there's a lot of people out there that are not willing to put that time into it and to get the result at the end. So I would love to hear, first of all, you tell everybody kind of how you built that, what it took.
Sure.
And then like, how do they stay consistent over a long period of time? And there's probably times where you weren't getting the results that you expected, those kind of things. So maybe just talk to some of that. And I think it's important to see the level at which you were performing to get to the place where you are now. So if you talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, some of the building of that and some of that stuff, I think it'll help, because I mean, and if you're listening, just take YouTube channel and input real estate business. It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So let's talk about the beginning, because I think any channel kind of evolves over time. So I retired from work at February 2nd of 2018. I have a couple of weeks of being excited because, hey, I'm 45. I don't have to work anymore. I then, for the first time in my life, get depressed. And it's a negative spiral. I got nothing to do. I'm not contributing. My ego's not working. It's a month, maybe 6 weeks in. I'm seriously considering getting a job, and I had multiple job offers on the table because what I did, I was really good at. And I remember on the weekend, it's going, if something doesn't change, if I don't have a mission, I'm just going to get a job. And boy, that would be a failure. I remember saying that to myself. So what I decided to do first is I decided to write one rental at a time, because again, it's a book that I didn't think existed. It's like, hey, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then what happened? So, that was a story that felt better. But at the end of that, we were on another trip in Asia, and I remember watching Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin. And I'm like, oh, these guys, at the time, Graham's got, I don't know, 5 or 6 units. Meet Kevin's got 7 or 8. And, I've got hundreds. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should have a YouTube channel and just share what being a landlord is. Bill, I got to tell you, I didn't even know you could monetize a channel. I had no idea. I came to YouTube because I simply wanted to find a way to fill my cup. Unfortunately, what I found with a YouTube channel is you individually can only create so much content with so much ideas. It starts to feel like work. So to how we started this interview, I started to go to social media, i.e. Facebook, and find other folks that are doing it like yourself and like many of your friends. And that worked. That felt good. We had different conversations. What really changed for One Rental at a Time is I started to recruit people that are like-minded. I call them my millionaires. And we have a standing recording every week, like Anna Kelly, 8 a.m. Wednesday. Jason Pritchard, 8 a.m. Sunday morning. And really why this is important is I think I have 12 hours booked every week with 12 different people. We record 3 topics. That's 36 videos. I also take it upon myself to do one live show every day called the Daily Financial News. It's something I've been doing 30 years. I'm up early, 5 o'clock. I read the financial stuff. Now I take notes and do a live show at 7:30. So yeah, One Rental at a Time has grown because we've cultivated other contributors. And I fill them in with other folks like yourself 4 or 5 times. You're just too busy to do weekly. I understand, but it's really wild. So this is something I want people to see. If you look at me today, I have roughly 55,000 subs. I made $80,000 in AdSense last year. What really probably shocks people is I've never edited a video, never one edit. I didn't have anybody doing thumbnails for a couple of years. I've now done 12,000 videos. One Rental at a Time, the YouTube channel, has helped me generate over 7 figures in other things, books, courses. By accident. I am not an entrepreneur. I have no team, no funnel, none of these things. It's just by being consistent, sharing what works and what doesn't work. I've sold 7 figures in books, courses, and other stuff. It's kind of wild to think about. But really what the point of all this is, I wasn't monetized until after 1,000 videos. How many people start a YouTube channel, do 5 videos, and cry? I did 1,000, almost 1,200 videos before I was monetized. And I didn't care. My goal was not the monetization. I didn't even know for the first 6 months that was a thing. I did it because it was my platform to give back. My anchor, what I've anchored my entire journey of 5 years on is this one thing. I want to do something where I die twice. What does that mean? At some point, my physical body will give up. Hopefully that's 50 years from now or more. But what will happen after that is people will stop saying my name 50 years after that. So I hope to contribute in a positive way where people are still talking about Michael Zuber 50 years after I'm dead. That is what drove me in 2018. That is what still drives me in 2023. All the other stuff that happens around it happens by accident. So that's my mission, is to create a platform that helps people and changes lives, and people are still talking about me after I'm dead. That's my goal.
What I heard was you built something that works for you. So your times,
yes,
your structure. I'm guessing, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe the platform that you were watching, like it sounded like you were watching Graham Stephan and watching Meet Kevin. Like, did you understand the platform and know it, and you were like a user of it, or you just?
Nope. I was bored in the back of a van as we were traveling around Taiwan up in the mountains. I'm like, I got to do something because they're speaking Chinese and it was really loud and I don't speak Chinese. So I was literally killing time. I didn't have a social media presence other than LinkedIn until after I was retired. I didn't know YouTubers existed. I typed real estate investing in YouTube and those guys came up.
And so, but the other thing is like you saying you don't edit, like you built something that works for you, not what everybody else is doing and what you think you have to do. You're not chasing what everybody else is doing.
No.
And I love it. I think it's, and the consistency, I think, is what has done it. What's really produced the results. Like literally, I remember you on Facebook. Just if I remember the early memory, I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Like click on your page. I'm like looking at it. I'm like I've never seen this guy. He's not somebody's email. I'm in that email list. Like I don't know. I keep tabs on like a lot of people in the real estate, the coaching space from the background. It was the consistent, like almost like it was copy and paste. Like, would you be on my YouTube channel? Sounds awesome. Would you like to come and talk about it on my YouTube channel? And it was consistent for years that was it. And the cool thing is now, what we talked about in the beginning is so before you were going out to curate the people to come on the show, and now I guarantee they're coming to you. And so
daily.
And it's like same thing podcast here. I've done, I don't know, probably almost 1,000 of these things. And every day, maybe 2-3 times a day, I get an email. I got this person that should be on your show and this person that should be on your show. And it's cookie cutter, copy paste. And it really is about doing the work in the dark to then like shine in the light down the road.
I like that. We're doing the work in the dark. Well said.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. And I noticed, and I was watching, and I think a lot of other people just see it now and are like, oh, I wish I had that.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here watching my personal channel. Like I built a channel starting in like January. It's not about making money. It's about the goal that we set in the beginning of the year. And the other side of it, so for everybody who's watching, is like when I wanted to do this, I said I want to do something that I would do for free, and I'm paying for it. Like I get to go fly my airplane and put 8 GoPros in there and make a bunch of videos and do fun. Like I figure out awesome. like you, what do I want to do that I can do more of that I think would be cool, and eventually it's going to grow. Like I still have a million subscriber goal for you in your real estate business. I know this is not a conversation about your YouTube channel, although I would probably argue that you might want to start doing that because it's a great platform for you to drive traffic to in the future and build credibility. Sure. But if you're starting this business or building this business, it's about the tenacity that Michael had to keep going. It's about the goals that he set. It's about the plan that he had and sticking to it over a long period of time. Like his step 3, it takes a decade. What I wrote is wait. You have to do the work and wait. And that's the challenge. Like right now, we're recording this right before Christmas. We're in a season of Advent. Mm-hmm. We're in a season of waiting. Like these people were waiting for the birth of Jesus. It's like this waiting period that we're not willing to. We want to go so fast. We're not willing to patiently wait for the results and sow the seeds that we need to have the fruit down the road. And so I think a lot of us are just, and society right now is very much go, go, go. Don't wait. You don't need to wait. And all these coaches and people that run podcasts just like this are saying, you're going to be rich in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And this is not true. It's not true. I mean, it's going to take years for you to build a business. I mean, you should be thinking about doing this for the next 10, 20 years. And
correct.
And so I encourage you to set the goal, to stay with it, and have the consistency that Michael has of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, read the news, do it at 7:30. Then he's got back. Like when I'm on his show, it's like if I'm 2 minutes late, he's gone. Like
it has happened.
I got to record something. Like you're out. I was like, wait, what just happened? And he's like, this is like a live recording. I only have 15 minutes, or we have 20 minutes. Like let's go. We're recording 2 shows in 30 minutes. Much more efficient than I am on this show, where it's like let's talk for a while, And so it's really incredible. So I applaud you for that. I praise you for that. I think it's a great example for people to understand that they need to do the same thing if they want to be successful in the business.
Yeah, I think you've really summed something up that I never put my fingers on. So I appreciate that. You're absolutely right. I've done what works for me. And you're to that point, I don't record after 11 a.m. I'm out. right? If there's a very, very rare exception, like maybe once a year I'll record something off hours. But again, I want to get home. I'm a morning person. Olivia's an evening person. I'll get home, take care of the dogs. Our first thing is we're going to go have lunch somewhere. So yeah, absolutely right. I built this around what works for me. So that was enlightening. Thank you.
Well, I think it's really important for the people to hear that, because they got to, you don't need to build the business that your friend has, or that somebody on a podcast has, or somebody else in your market has. You need to build the business that suits you, your lifestyle, your plan. And by the way, that changes over time. Like Michael probably didn't, he recorded all over the place in the beginning.
I did.
It's just, all that stuff changes, and that's okay. Give yourself some grace to make adjustments over time, and change and pivot and design what you want. That's the beauty of running a business or doing what you want to do, is you can decide. So, all right, Michael, how can people find out more about you? First of all, YouTube channel, obviously, you've got a book, you've got a lot of things going on. So just where can they go find more about you, learn more about you, and jump into your world if they want to?
The one thing that I've done right is everything I do is one rental at a time. So the first book was called that, website's called that, YouTube channel's called that, Twitter, Instagram. So if you want to find me, one rental at a time is the place to be. If you want to attend the daily financial news, it goes live 7:30 a.m. You can watch them live. So those are all times Pacific. But yeah, at the end of the day, Bill Allen, you are on the Mount Rushmore of investors. I look forward to the teenage tycoons. I think that is going to change generations to come. So I encourage you to go big, go fast. That is something that is desperately needed out there. So congrats for making a huge difference.
Thanks. I'm really excited about that. It's like one of my,
you should be,
it's lighting me up right now. And yesterday was so fun to see that. So I do think that'll be like a big legacy that I can leave if we can impact those amount of families. And because, we were doing this for like the real estate investors, but they were doing it for their kids.
Yes.
So I was like, what if we all just do this together? What if we figure out how to, instead of waiting and letting you and my kids don't listen to me, they listen to somebody else.
Exactly.
So it's like, they actually implement the stuff that other people tell them faster than they do what I do. I know what I'm doing is I'm sowing seeds for the future. But I also have to discipline them and do all the other stuff. I get to go have fun with all these other families and kids, and then they get to go back with their parents to discipline them. So, and
I like it.
They'll listen to me, like they really will. And it's cool.
Teenage tycoon. It's going to change lives.
That's it. All right, Michael, thank you so much for today. And for everyone that's listening, I will see you guys on the next show.